Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Gooner Gathering. This is the second one I've done today. I've just come off the back of doing a pre-record with Matt Roberts. And now Goonerly Meads has been joined by the poshest man in all of sports entertainment, Posh Bertie. I am so pleased to see you tonight. How are you, mate? You good?
I'm doing great. There's lots of things to talk about, and one of the reasons I'm doing great today is that England are doing very well in the Ashes today. Good old Bazball, it's working very well. Anyway,
tell me about this cricket, mate, because I'm not familiar with the scorecard. I do not know what's been going on. Tell me.
We're doing well in the Ashes against Australia at the moment. I didn't watch all of it. I kept keeping an eye on it.
I believe England declared, did they not?
Yeah, we declared 393 for 8 declared. Yeah. Hopefully we won't regret that. Australia currently trail by 379 runs.
I think the closer play was about 15, 16 for none, right?
Yeah, 14.
There you go. I knew it was that sort. I know a little bit of my cricket, not a great deal, but we're not here to talk.
No worries, it's not a cricket channel.
No, not at the moment. Say no more. But we are here to talk about. There's some factual news that have gone on. There's going to be some speculation coming out of this stream. I'm not as well prepared for this one as I was with Matt Roberts because I've literally done my notes for Matt and I've got nothing written down for this one. But
it's all right. I don't have any either. I never do, to be honest. So
no, that's absolutely fine. So do you know what? I think what we'll do. Let's start tonight's discussion. We'll build it up slow, and then we'll bring to a crescendo later on. Right? You know what I'm talking about, right? So let's talk about the West Ham skipper, mate. Let's talk about Declan Rice. So it is very, very well documented. It was all over the mainstream sports news yesterday that Arsenal have officially put in a first bid, an opening offer, if you will, which was rejected by the Hammers. Now, I don't think that was a total surprise. Now, I see over on Twitter a lot of reaction to the idea of Arsenal lowballing West Ham in this this bid for their captain. But I'll ask you before I give you my take on it. I'd like to ask you your feelings on this one because I think you're probably going to want to have your say here.
What part of 120 million does Edu not understand? That was the asking price. And the second bid is going to get rejected because it's around 101 million. 91 million plus add-ons. That is not enough. West Ham have viewed Declan Rice between 110 and 120 million pounds. So that's going to get rejected as well. And I do think that we will probably walk away from the second bid because we are too scared. Sorry, I mean, we don't want to get involved in a bidding war with other clubs. It has been well speculated that Man City are looking at Declan Rice. There's talks of Man United, Chelsea, maybe not Bayern Munich because I think they've kind of pulled out of the deal. But we are going to get in a bidding war with Declan Rice. And if we don't want to get involved in any bidding wars, what's the point of not just signing Rice, but what's the point of not signing any player at all? Because that's what's going to happen when you sign players that are good. You're going to get in bidding wars with them with other clubs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what West Ham are looking for. So listen, this is what's going to make this stream quite an interesting one. I think myself and Mr. Posh Bertie over there will have slightly differing views. I think that might be quite interesting because I kind of put it on Twitter at Goonerly Meads, don't you know, that it kind of feels like when you're going in for a big player like Declan or any big player, to be honest, that it's not like you go in to your big supermarket and then you go in and put your food groceries through the checkout and then you're going to pay what it says on the till, right? this is all about negotiation. My thoughts are here that it's an opening bid to say to the Hammers that, look, we're interested. Let's talk and come to some sort of compromise. That's how you go about buying a property, say. So, and you mentioned sort of about £101 million. I don't know quite where the 101 has come from.
It's 91 million plus 10 million add-ons.
Right. So I don't know how all these figures become quite apparent in the Twitter sphere, shall we say? But I'm actually, and this is going to surprise everyone who's watching us, right? That I'm actually quite confident that Declan will eventually sign. Now, I don't think anything is going to happen between now and next Monday. And the reason behind that is, of course, as you know, this is a live stream. England are about to play. I haven't seen the team lineup. I don't know if he's playing or not yet because I've been busy doing something else. However, I think it'd be very wrong of Arsenal, West Ham, and involved in the negotiations to get involved, because this is a qualification game for the international side. I think that it's quite possible that we'll get through the game tonight. It could happen over the weekend, say. And if it doesn't, I would suggest to anyone who might be watching, let's just see how it pans out. Now, if I'm wrong, you can come back at me, and then you can say to me, look, Gunnar Lee Meads, what are you talking about, mate? Or what are you saying? But I would say, look, we are day 3 officially in the transfer window, and regards Manchester City and the potential interest in Declan. I'm not so sure that young man wants to leave London. I'm off that feeling that he might want to stay in London. So, because look, it's just my gut instinct. I don't know anything. It's just my feeling. But and the fact that it goes back in my mind that is verbally almost agreed the deal anyway is an interesting one. But we shall see. How would you like to respond to my my comments, sir?
First of all, I can confirm now that Declan Rice is playing for England, along with Bukayo Saka. Let him rest, for God's sake.
Well, here's the thing. It's a competitive international, mate. That's the thing. If it was
we could beat Bolton without Saka.
You cannot underestimate anybody. Let me tell you. We listen, if you go back, if we talk domestically just briefly, look at us playing Nottingham Forest, right? We cannot underestimate anybody at any sort of competition. That's my feeling on that. That is why it's so important to put a first team out. And people, if guys are watching, and make sure if you are watching us, make sure you hit the like button and make sure you hit a comment, because I'm really interested to hear what other people want to say, because there's going to be some people who are going to disagree with me, and I know that, and I'm cool. I'm absolutely cool with that, because that's what makes this scenario quite an interesting one, right? That some people are losing their minds. They obviously, because it probably doesn't help some of the thought process when you see Liverpool going and getting McAllister, say, right, which
before
is a fantastic,
the window opened.
Yeah. Well, it's all about sort of agreeing it, and then it will sort of the window comes open, and then the paperwork becomes official. That's basically how that works, right?
He's already signed for them. It's signed, sealed, and delivered before the window
he's signed,
opened.
sealed, and delivered. That's what I'm saying to you. That it was probably agreed a little bit ago, but then obviously with the window opening as it is, that's how the transfer kind of window works. And McAllister's a great midfielder as well. He probably would have fit in just nice, but Liverpool got ahead. They've gone and done their business like that. There's a phrase, and it's like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Do not put all your expectations into one signing. Now, the one I'm thinking of will come back into in the main event in a little while. But for the likes of McAllister, for the likes of Rice, until it's signed, sealed, delivered, it's a little frustrating. Do you remember there was a time when I was a lot younger, where fans could just had to stew on their laurels a little bit, sit on their hands a little bit, and wait for something to happen on teletext. I would suggest, look, we're 3 days in, everybody. Let's just see what happens. And again, look, if the window goes really, really wrong, and say mysteriously that if we start the season up and all of a sudden we've had a heavy defeat at Wembley against Manchester City in the I nearly called it the Charity Shield. I'm going to correct myself. It's Community Shield now, Lee. And then we go to Forest and play Forest at the Emirates. Have a torrid time at the start of the season.
3-1 to Aston Villa all over again.
Yeah. And that is the point where people can come back at me and say, look, you know nothing. But I would say, look, let's just call our jets. Let's see how it all pans out. Let's not get ourselves too excited. Let's see what happens. In terms of Declan, I think Declan Rice might well be an England player after the second international, so the game happens on Monday night, and then perhaps a day or two after that. That is my feeling. I don't think there'll be the official stamp, because there's all sorts of stuff that goes on, isn't there? Like media duty, photo shoots, that sort of thing. I don't think they want to take Declan away from the England squad. Is basically what I'm saying. It's just my feeling, and I might be totally wrong, but that's the whole point of having this discussion, right?
Yes. My concern, though, I've said, is obviously the second bid. It's either gone in now or hasn't gone in. We hear so many reports.
Yeah,
West
allegedly.
Ham, if there is a bidding war, they're going to wait for Man City. And Man City have got lots and lots of funds. They can easily say, all right, here's 120 million. We can afford it. There you go. And they'll go, oh, perfect. He's yours. All it takes is one.
You know what?
Look at Mudryk.
I understand that concern. But ultimately, it is for the player to make that decision. And I think, again, it's just me thinking. I don't know. I think Declan has already got his mind set up on that move to Arsenal. It's very interesting.
It's up to the club.
Well, in the case of moving this on a little bit, let's just see where it ends up. And if I end up with egg on my face, my friend, I'll quite happily put egg on my face. It's absolutely fine. And, we'll see how it plans out. That's just what makes this really interesting. This transfer window, I think, is going to be very, very interesting for Arsenal. Now,
so important.
It's so important to get it right, yeah. And I've been watching other streams. I was watching TJ Warren last night. Thoroughly enjoyed watching his stream last night. And if you haven't already subscribed to TJ, he's fantastic. I might even put his link on the description later on. But they were saying like the summer window of last season. So obviously we're talking about, we've got the two lads from City in Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko. But we also got the likes of Fabio Vieira, and does that mean that we had a successful transfer window? I don't know if it does, but then of course, we're not, we come to January and looking for reinforcements, and certain players were we bought certain ones in, like Jorginho.
Chelsea saw how slow we were for Mudryk, and they went, "Here you go. Here's the money. We can afford it. There you go."
And look how well that did for Modric and Chelsea.
I think under good management, that isn't Graham Potter or Frank Lampard, I think he could be a good player.
Yeah, there's every chance he could be. I'm not going to dismiss that fact.
He's got lots of time on his hands as well. So
yeah, relatively young player. But I would say with Chelsea as well, there's lots of issues there, isn't there? I mean, we're talking about Chelsea as and part of this really old head here really thinks of Chelsea as like a top four club, like one of them top contenders, and maybe they might be. Maybe they might end up being top contenders next season. There's an awful lot of work to do there, but the fact that they do not have any Europe football to deal with, I don't even think they're anywhere in any of the competitions.
No.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Not in any European competitions. Like us in the 2021-22, essentially. No Europe.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So it's like anyone who looks wants to progress in their career and wanting to build up to levels in terms of up there in that top echelon, if you will. Look, we speak French. You know what I mean? It's like if anyone wants to play, exactly. If you want to play top level football, is it really all about wanting to play that top level football, or is it all about getting dollar? For
the ownership, it's about the money and the player. Look, at the end of the day, the people who decide who goes, the people who decide who signs for the club, or who how do I put this? The people who pay the money for the signing is the ownership. The people who do the negotiations is not down to the manager unless they have full control. It's down to the director of football that they have. Chelsea, again, like clubs, see if we're too slow and if we're too cautious when it comes to negotiating, other clubs can look at that and go, all right, we don't mind him. Let's hijack it. Here's the money. We can afford it. On the table. There you go. That club's going to go, oh, well, I can see that the club that's paid the full money just like that is much more eager than the club that's too slow at negotiating. Here you go. Here's the player. Pleasure doing business with you. That's what happened in January. And I fear if Man City get anywhere near our bidding for Declan Rice, he's a City player.
Okay. Well, this is what's cool about this, my friend. And I've got an awful lot of love for you. And we'll see how it all pans out, mate. Ultimately, we're both of Arsenal fandom, and we want to see the club do well. And at this sort of stage, we're literally very, very early on that transfer window. There's lots of things that are going to be happening. Obviously, at this sort of stage, we're talking a lot of speculation. And when actual stories break where someone's officially put pen to paper on something, we will absolutely be covering it. Okay? And it doesn't matter if it be me on my own, it could be you, it could be any of us. We will definitely be here on Gooner Gathering covering all the transfer activity that goes on during the summer. So what I want to do, I want to put a pin in speculation just for a minute.
Yeah.
Because I want to go on to a little bit of factual news. And, of course, there are... I've just come off of another stream with Matt talking about the ladies' team. Obviously, on the Arsenal website today, it's been officially confirmed. There's a whole lot of There's a couple of men's players. There's a couple of academy players. There's a couple of ladies players. We cover all the ladies on the channel on the stream that I've just done with Matt. So I won't we go over that now. But I will want to talk about a couple of the men's players right now. And first of all, I want to talk about this young man here, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who you might want to stick your head around the other side so we can see your beautiful face, mate. There you go. So this beautiful man has been around with the Arsenal for an awful long time. I think he's been there, certainly since he was a young man, since he was about 6, I think. Started his career actually really successfully as playing as fullback, and he was outstanding for a good little while. But he seemed to have lost favour with the management. His insistence that he was like a midfield player, rather, I don't know, kind of put, that's a story came into the press where he wanted to play in midfield. And, Arteta or whoever the manager would have been at the time, it might have even been pre-Arteta, in fairness.
I think he played under the Wenger days as well, a couple of times.
Possibly at the back end of it, yeah. Absolutely would have done. And like I said, he was a player that came from the academy. He really made a good name for himself. I thought he was fantastic as a fullback. Also, you can't deny he was a fantastic penalty taker as well. I don't even think he missed one for us. And there's several shootouts he took one in. Good player. What kind of struck me with him is his kind of attitude in terms of wanting to play midfield a little bit. And I don't think necessarily went down very well. Obviously spent the season, the vast majority of the season, over at Southampton. Didn't really go well for him, unfortunately, and of course the Saints went down. But I do want to say I wish him all the best, and I hope everything goes well for him in his career, because I think there's a real good player there.
Absolutely. I think he did want to play more of a going forward position than at a right back. But then again, when you've got Hector Bellerin as your first choice right back, you're going to have to prefer anyone to him, aren't you? At that time, so
a bit harsh.
Well, Maitland-Niles didn't go on about planting trees or dyeing or focusing on his hair or whatever. But yeah, I think
talk to me about hair.
I do. Hey, Simon Miller, how you doing? I do wish him well, Maitland-Niles. I think he is a good player. And you mentioned the penalties, the shootout against Liverpool in the Community Shield. Yeah. He was a decent player, and whatever he does next, I'm sure he'll do all right. I can see him again going to probably a mid to lower table Premier League club, maybe.
Yeah, and I think he'll do very, very well. I would suggest as an FPL player, I would suggest he's definitely worth an eye on. See where he ends up, and see what sort of club he ends up on. I think he'll do very well next season. I will cover a young man that has not actually played a first-team game for Arsenal, unbelievably, but Matt Smith, who was the
Doctor Who, the guy from Doctor Who.
Not quite that one, no.
The guy who played Prince Philip in The Crown at one time. No.
But actually, the fella who was the academy captain, the under 23 captain, I believe. He was actually at the club. I can give you an exact number of years on him. He was at Arsenal for 16 years. It's been officially confirmed on his Instagram that he is going to leave the club. But I will like to remind people that he does leave Arsenal with best wishes. At 22 years old, he's a player that really needs some first team football. But let's not forget, he did pick up an FA Cup winners medal a couple of years ago. So, Harry Kane, how you doing?
No, yeah. So he picked up an FA Cup winners' medal and he didn't play a single minute. So he's essentially our equivalent of Scott Carson, which is always nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I don't know much about him. I never saw him play a single minute of football. I hope he does well. He'll probably go to a championship club, maybe. Yeah. I don't know much to say because I don't know much about him. I obviously know of him, but I've never seen him play football. So I hope he does all right.
I mean, it probably is his highlight of his Arsenal career may well have been either on the bench in the FA Cup final or just post the World Cup of this season when he did play a couple of minutes. Obviously, that doesn't really count in first team appearances, but he did play in that rather odd tournament in that rather odd kind of time.
So friendlies. He's played friendlies then.
Exactly. And of course, Arsenal picked up, and it doesn't really count. So I know, don't have a go at me. But we did pick up that lovely little piece of bronzeware. So, but like we say, being at the club for 16 years, he knows the club very well. Halen boy, and I'm sure he wouldn't have been at Arsenal for 16 years unless he had some talent. So I hope he does pick up a club soon, and I hope he does very, very well indeed. Right. I think
you said that he wouldn't have been at Arsenal for 16 years unless he had some talent. I will say Hector Bellerin played for us.
Okay. Do you want to talk about Hector Bellerin? I will.
No, I don't want to talk about him. I don't want to talk about him anymore.
Because that young man had a heck of a promising career. It was just really, really unfortunate. The injuries he picked up meant that the recovery pace that he did have really deserted him. And you're
he was
right.
Just a bit arrogant, wasn't he? Too busy
a
focusing
little
on
bit maybe
getting his hair correct, and so he can post it on Instagram rather than playing football. Yeah. Anyway, he's in the past now. He's thankfully not playing for us anymore. Move on.
Which I think probably brings us to the main event of the evening. And I'm just curious, Posh. I'm just curious. Is there a certain midfielder that plays for Brighton that you might have been a bit interested in?
Yeah, Pascal Gross is a very good player. Solly March as well, Yeah, they're very good. Yeah. Decent players.
Will you be serious for a minute? Talk to me about Moses Caicedo, sir.
So he was linked with us in January, and we put in a big bid for him, and it got rejected. And I'm a fan because he is sort of he's like Thomas Partey, and I think him and Partey in midfield at that time would have been a very solid kind of duo. Good. The shield, if you will, in our midfield, and he would have been a good replacement for Xhaka as well. And I always said we need to really get this transfer window right this season, and if we were very serious about challenging for the title, I know it was a big ask. We'd get both Rice and Caicedo, offload Xhaka, get rid of the deadwood in the team like Tavares, Lokonga. Maybe Fabio Vieira's more likely to go on loan, but if you can get some...
I think so.
Do you know what? Mohamed El Neni, Mo. If you can get some money for him, I think you should load him off. Not load, get rid of him as well. And I think you would have had the funds to sign both Rice and Caicedo. Because even, I know we joke about, my Caicedo obsession is a bit weird. But even you'll admit, Rice and Caicedo in midfield is mouth-watering.
Oh, mate, it'll be fantastic.
Jorginho and Partey, two good backups. I think it's a good recipe, isn't it? A delicious recipe.
Yeah, I would say, it probably would have worked. But I'm also of the opinion that I'm not gonna lose any sleep over this one. And you know why?
I didn't think signing both would happen either. I didn't think signing both would happen. I thought it was very ambitious.
Yeah, I do think we are going to sign a few players. I do think we're going to sign a few midfielders. I already said on record, so you can look back at that. You can clip on that bit where it says that I think we're going to sign Declan Rice, right? And then you can tell me what an idiot I am, right? But then I'm not surprised about this Caicedo situation, and I'll tell you why. Because it was pretty clear in January that Brighton just didn't want to sell him. In fact, it came to a point that he actually signed a new contract. So that would have meant his valuation would have absolutely skyrocketed. Now, it might be potentially of the fee that we're about to pay for Declan Rice, say, or that proposed fee that we're going in for with Declan Rice, might actually have detrimentally affected the bid going for him. That is just my thought process. I also think they are a little bit unwilling to do the business. I'm not even sure if the player...
Well, they're more than happy to let him go to Chelsea, though.
Well, yeah.
Financially problematic Chelsea.
That's the thing as well. Because they've been in investigation with the FFP. My understanding is that one of the reasons that this Havertz deal might happen is because of Chelsea being in some peril. But yeah, if Moses Caicedo is wanting to leave Brighton, I know this might sound really weird, right? But is moving to Chelsea, say, is that an improvement on his career at this stage?
Based on last season, it might be a downgrade.
Yeah.
But only based on last season, just to clarify, for any Chelsea fans.
Oh, yeah. I mean, historically, look, I know. Like,
historically, Chelsea, invented in 2003, decent history.
Some of us are remembering a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
But I know your point, sir. I get your point entirely.
No, and he'd be if he does go to Chelsea, he would be a great replacement for Kante.
Who reportedly is going to leave on a free transfer, right?
He's going to go to Saudi Arabia.
So he's after a little bit more money. And do you know what? I get this. I get this move a little bit because he's sort of advancing in age a little bit. And when you're at that sort of stage, you want to get a decent last contract. And we could have an argument, either talking football, or we could talk about anything else that we might have an interest in that oil money, if you like. But ultimately, if it means that financially he's going to be secure in the summer, for the rest of his life, that makes an awful lot of sense to me. But like I said, with Caicedo, I'm not surprised that if he goes. If he goes to Chelsea, I'll question motive. Is my question, my thought process. And there are other players around, and I'm going to include Declan in this one. And Declan has a lot more Premier League experience than Caicedo. I've seen enough players in my time to play one decent season in the Premier League and then fizzle out into nothing. So we'll see. I'm not too upset about this whole thing. I think there are other players linked with Arsenal. Now, I don't want to go. As you know, I'm not a massive fan of talking speculation. I like talking fact. But if one project, one target goes over to another direction, I'm pretty sure there'll be a plan here and a plan here and a plan here. But ultimately,
whether those plans come to fruition is another conversation.
Yeah, and let's be honest with ourselves. I think next season we'll be looking at the competition at a very different sort of level. I've mentioned this a little bit, right? In terms of, so we've managed to get back up to that Champions League sort of stage.
Yeah, we're going to need to have the depth.
Yes, and we will not get away with weakening a squad like they would have done in the Europa League, say, where a lot of people are saying, oh, they threw that league away or whatever. The reason why they tried to do that was to try and preserve the legs of the other players. And obviously that didn't work out great. And I get that. And I get the anger on this as well. And listen, I'm, in terms of domestic cups, do you know, I love picking up them trophies. We had so much fun, didn't we, the other weekend watching the Sheffield Wednesday games back in '92. And you know, I love all them sort of competitions. Now, what makes this window so important for me is that they are going to need to bring them signings in there. They're going to need to have that quality of strength of squad all the way through. And I'm not talking about an odd one or two players. I'm thinking probably at least 6, 7 in, if I'm being realistic, in terms of us being able to compete in the Premier League and ultimately finish off the job that we should have done last season. And then I'm not thinking that we're going to go straight back into the Champions League. I'm sorry to upset anyone that I might be watching
so
this,
either.
right? But I don't expect us to go in Champions League and then all of a sudden we are going to be all the way through to knockout stages and beyond. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what to expect
I'm hoping we do not crash out of the group stage in an embarrassing fashion. I hope we do not do that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen enough of them defeats in our time, haven't we? I mean, there's defeats up in Munich and things like that really sort of stick out. But do you know what? I still think there's plenty of time for us to prepare ourselves for whatever is going to happen in that Champions League. It's going to be a really difficult one, and it's a big ask for saying Arsenal, who haven't been there for an awful long time, and it does feel like it's been a heck of a journey in terms of a real rebuild, in terms of getting the club financially into a decent position, and then trying to be able to compete. And it's really difficult. Let's not get it wrong, especially when you've got owners like what goes on at City, what potentially might happen at United with their new ownership potentially. Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. But I'm still thinking that the window is going to be very busy. There's going to be players coming in and out. There's going to be also potentially, I mean, in terms of squad depth and stuff, we're still waiting for the confirmation of Reece Nelson to sign. That could happen. And I think that could be an important part of the jigsaw. I'm not saying it's be all and end all, but I think it's an important player to have because he can play, he can make an impact. With the risk of me carrying on rambling and stuff, I think I've pretty much made my point of what I wanted to say. Let's say that with Caicedo, look, terrific player. He's had a great season at Brighton. He extended his contract in January. I think Arsenal will not be held to ransom on a deal that is way beyond his valuation, in my opinion. Now, it's not my money to spend.
He's not worth 80 million, I can tell you that now.
Yeah. But let's see where it happens. Until something is signed and sealed, anything can happen in the transfer window. It's what makes us enjoy the game and love the game as we do, and we might have differing opinions on where the club's going to go and stuff. But we'll see how we end up. As the summer progresses, I'm sure we'll have more and more streams like this where we'll go back and forth, and if something happens, if something doesn't happen, we'll see how it all plans out.
But remember, it's not what we want to happen, it's what we think is going to happen.
Exactly. I couldn't have put it better myself, Posh Bertie. So, listen, with all that being said, I think that wraps us up quite nicely because I believe we're just about coming up very close to kickoff time if we haven't already gone into kickoff time.
Yeah.
So, before we head out of here, my friend, there's the social media plugs. Go ahead, sir.
So my Twitter is @Posh Bertie. My Instagram is @BertieOneless. That's where you can find me.
Thank you very much, sir. You can find me at Goonerly Mead. You can find all of the team at Gooner Gathering. Again, the streams will carry on through the summer, maybe not in terms of regularity and in terms of live streams, etc. There may well be one or two exciting fun little things that we end up doing. As a comment has just come in, perhaps as we're about to head out. Spencer's just joined us as we are heading out of the building. So thank you for tuning in. Catch up with us on demand because we're going to get out of here. I'm going to go and eat my dinner, watch the England game, and then probably collapse. So thank you very much, everyone who's been here. There's been a steady flow of people in the chat today. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Posh Bertie, for joining me tonight. And I will see you on Monday. And I'll see all the rest of you when we get there. Take care all.